lot of people, if you just observe, everything is a vacuum when it comes to what you see on social media because it's a very small microcosm of the whole world. But what I do believe is that the consistency of the message is somewhat reflective of where people are at. And what I do believe is that the message you're seeing today is a message of, I'm not buying the bullshit you're selling me anymore. I don't buy it anymore. I know that you think that everything is really bad, but it's really bad because you've made it bad. And whatever you're selling, I'm not buying it anymore. I'm going to look in another direction. That's why I believe if Cornel West gets his act together, just the thought of somebody other than the two-party system is running for office, regardless of whether you're a proponent for electoral politics, him alone is just going to cause enough of a stir where they're not going to know what to do. And the only thing they know how to do is to censor and silence and push you away because they have nothing to offer you because people now have been able to see behind the curtain.
Well, people who want to. There's this whole group of willfully ignorant people. I've come to the conclusion that was something I was just thinking about recently. I look at people like my congressperson or any of these Jews, particularly in the House of Representatives, that refuse to recognize what is really going on in Israel. They are one of two things. They are either willfully ignorant or they're lying. And there is no other option. These are people that have access to information.
Well,
right?
That's the reason.
So there's no, if you have access to information, you either purposefully not looking at that information or you know it and you're lying. So you're either willfully ignorant or lying. And I feel like that with them on most everything at this point.
And this is why you in particular have that righteous anger that we should all have, because I'm a believer that they're all full of shit. If you are one of the 535 most powerful elected representatives in the world, you are privy to information that no one else is, much like who is getting killed, who is, going to be getting this sweetheart deal, who's going to jail, who's not, how do we convince people to continue to buy our charade? So when they go out there and they make their statements, and their statement is patently false, it's because they're deliberately lying. That old joke. How do you know a politician's lying? Their lips are
Well, I really have to believe that about all of. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how there are people like my congresswoman, other people that are not. And Hakeem Jeffries with his big, oh, we're going to Israel. I love Israel. Please, AIPAC, let me suck your butt. And he is just, and they're going on their delegation and they're doing things, and they know the truth. These people know the truth. So they are purposefully lying about what is going on there.
Do you remember the movie Total Recall? Do you remember when Arnold, right?
Yes.
Do you remember everybody was in on the lie? Everybody was in on the lie. Arnold, didn't even realize he was part of the lie. Okay. That right there is about as close to reality as we get. And those people that are in those positions have been given a lot of information. They know they're lying. I believe they know they're lying. I believe that they have been told what to do within these closed door sessions with people we've probably never seen before.
Oh yeah. I believe, never will.
I believe 100%. Okay. That in the end, we are watching people, because think about this. Think about the sheer, you'd have better odds of winning that $1.5 billion lottery, okay, than 535 people rotating constantly, being completely and utterly feckless to get healthcare through, or completely and utterly feckless in getting student debt eradicated, or being completely and utterly feckless in dealing with the climate crisis. There's no possible way that could happen this way consistently. It's not money in politics. At the end of the day, this is the way it is, period. The system itself is structured to only allow those through the door that are going to be whatever they've groomed them to be. And, if you try and let somebody through the door that somehow or another isn't, corrupt or whatever, it won't take long for them to either be silenced or completely absorbed into the Borg,
There's a third option. I think there's a third option.
Tell me this third option.
Ineffective but loud. And I got to tell you, because I look at what we don't get anything done. They're not getting anything done in there. Nobody's going to get anything
nothing.
done. No. However, squeaky wheel gets the grease. So we spend our time looking at morons like Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up and whatever spewing comes out of her mouth. And it's like, imagine if there were, I don't know, some people in Congress that were actually saying the right things. It can happen. Now, will they be effective policy-wise? No. But could they possibly help? Just like I feel about Cornel West's campaign. Do I think that it's going to make a difference at the end of the day as far as electoral politics? No. But does it help propel a movement? Does it help bring awareness to something? Yeah, maybe it does. So, I mean, I don't know that it's like an all or nothing win or lose thing. I think that there's growth that can happen along the way within the movement in different places, depending on who the messenger is.
You know, I'm going to tell you, I believe that the only value we get from this stuff is the opportunity to educate and communicate and network. That's literally the only value that comes from this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's important to use these times to develop power outside of the electoral process, outside of the duopoly, because everybody thinks I'm just full of shit. I mean, even some of my most favorite donors and supporters and everything else still cycle back with nonsense. I'm telling you right now, if we don't build power outside of that, it will get co-opted and just completely suffocated, drowned in bullshit. Every single thing, every movement that we have witnessed has been co-opted and crushed by the duopoly. And I think calling it a duopoly is almost misleading.
Because it isn't. It's a monopoly.
It's a monopoly. It is literally it's like community theater. It's up there literally to make us feel like there's this, they're really working on it, man. They're sitting there all night long.
It's false sense of democracy is what it is. It's a false sense of democracy that we clearly do not have. And this is something that I have been a proponent about regarding, even if you are involved in electoral politics and for people that run, is the concept of running service-based campaigns. And if it were up to me, and I did reach out to somebody regarding Cornel West and them doing a national service-based campaign, because what you are doing is, and I learned this firsthand, like very, very clearly, that when you run a service-based campaign, people will get involved that aren't normally political people. And I was able to get people involved in our campaign and doing work with us that never participated in politics before because we were doing service. And what happens is if you do that, then your movement, your that outside organization, even though, yeah, it's part of this campaign right now, when that campaign is over, it still has potential to continue bringing people in. That's what I'm trying to shift this paradigm to service-based campaigns that continue whether or not somebody wins that race. It needs to continue. Bring in the outside.
Yes.
That's the key. If you watch the sine wave of elections and you just watch how it goes, you need that consistent, and it needs to be actually ramping up. You need it to be growing, but you need it consistent through the campaigns, through any political malaise, through anything else that's going on. It's got to keep steady. And this is why it cannot be in the party. The party is only worried about keeping us engaged in their election process. They're only there to keep us engaged in the narratives they tell. And they expect us to be carriers of that fake message to anywhere, all corners of the earth. I mean, look how many fools out there don't know shit about Ukraine, but every fucking profile picture has a goddamn yellow and blue flag on it. And this is not to denigrate Ukraine. I'm sure the people there have their own feelings about it.
You know that if you show me a Ukraine flag, I can tell you exactly who lives in that house, almost to exactly what they might even look like in the car that they drive. And it is a very specific kind of person. We all know who that is.
The problem with those particular individuals are the same people.
Subaru.
And are very much.
Hey, stop saying that. I like Subaru.
I do too. I'm just joking.
But the people who, and it is stereotypical, but I will say that universally, the people who have the Ukraine flag in their profile, they have it on in their backyard, wherever it may be. There's two rules of thumb that a number of people, especially on the political right, are not wrong about, is that they will have a Ukraine flag. They're not going to have an American flag. So I think that that's one thing. And then the other thing, of course, is that we're dealing
They
with
also
people,
have the Black Lives Matter flags. Same people.
what they also, you will not see from them, is they are the last people on earth that would ever pick up a weapon to defend this country or defend especially somebody else's country. The second they call for your kid to go over there and fight in Ukraine on the Russian front, let's see how many of them are keeping that flag in their profile. It's very easy to wax poetic about a war where hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have been killed, tortured, maimed, put into slavery. Don't even get me started on what's coming with BlackRock and what they're doing over there, because BlackRock basically is the conduit that brings everything together between Lockheed Martin, between Northrop Grumman, Boeing, all of these multinational megaopoly billion, if not trillion-dollar organizations. This is all about money and power. There is nothing else. And to the ignorant people that are out there that still think that if I just wave my Ukrainian flag and show how great a supporter I am of this, that this is somehow going to help.
No,
it's not. All that it matters to them is their insecurities as people.
Look, I'm going to pull this back for just a second. I want to be crystal clear here, because this is hard for me too. What I'm about to say is very hard for me to remember, but I do know it to be true. Okay. Those folks that have the Ukraine flags and stuff, they're just as propagandized and dumbed down as everybody else. And they're part of that whole apparatus of, hey, I'm a Justice Democrat and I'm voting for Summer. You know, they have that whole thing. They're going through that same process. They've been propagandized, and they want so badly to believe in the system and to belong in whatever fashion. And this is their way of creating their own safe place that, hey, I'm in line with everybody else and I don't have to deviate. And it's a safety thing. It's a community thing. You know, it's like, hey, I'm part of this thing. And there's an element of that I think we all want. We all want to have those relationships. We all want to believe that we're on the right side of stuff. And this is why you see so much hatred going on with the COVID crap. I mean, I just don't even want to get into it. It's just so awful. But the reality is that it's all about divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And it has been used to great, execution. It has been used to great detriment for us as well. But it's hard to not punch down at people when they're idiots, when they've been swept up in the sauce and they're part of the machine that's keeping you down because they bought into the establishment bullshit.
Turn off MSNBC, people. Turn that off.
It just bounces off their head. So it's not, I am really trying desperately to unplug from that punching of those fools and recognizing that the people that are doing this, it doesn't do me any good to get them to not use a Ukraine flag. It doesn't do any good to get them to do X, Y, Z, because in reality, what we need is them to understand and embrace that they are part of the working class.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.